tone. Frank's passion for team sports was well known. "Do you know how many kids would kill for a spot on the hockey team? And he showed real promise in preseason practice." I went to one of those preseason practice games. I thought PK looked tentative. "He had a good shot at making the starting lineup," Frank said sadly, "till his attitude changed." "Why was that?" "I don't know. He just got lazy, I think." "Maybe scared." "Scared?" He looked at me as if I'd worn nail polish to work. "Of what?" "I don't know. Maybe of being in a cold, slippery place with a lot of crazed teenagers who are trying to break his face with sticks." "Aw, shit." He closed the subject by grabbing up a long to-do list and a blue pencil. Now, I thought, peeking at my watch, maybe we can get down to it. Frank McCafferty was my field training officer when I joined the Rutherford Police Department, and my progress toward head of the investigations unit has followed more or less in lockstep behind his own steady advance to chief. I know him well, so I can tell right away when he's tap dancing, which is his own expression for maneuvering around a problem he's not ready to face. He had been tap dancing ever since he called me in here this morning. I figured he wanted a favor that he knew I wouldn't like, and I was hoping he'd quit kicking his desk now and tell me what it was. 8:15 was scrolling past, and I had chores waiting in my office. "Where were we? Paperless records. How's that coming?" "Well, Rosie's handling liaison between investigative section and the computer guy. She claims they're on schedule." "On schedule meaning what?" "Meaning at some point, we hope in our lifetime, we're going to quit filing paper records and get all our information off a screen. But first..." I held up my left hand and got ready to tick off the fingers with my right. I know, the chief said, waving me off. "Insufficient radio bandwidth, codes that don't match the state system. Plus, some of the software is still being written. Rosie says this Stacy Morse, who's building the system, is very confident, though. And the people in the records room are sold on it. They've been keeping duplicate records for months, and they're still not discouraged. Can you beat that? They seem to be convinced the extra work is going to pay off down the line." "Well, good. Now, what else? Oh yeah, Stearns' retirement." "Oh, shit." "He's put in his notice for the end of this month, so we need to give him a send-off around the 27th or 28th. Doesn't have to be anything elaborate," he said hastily, seeing me start to twitch. "But he's put in his full 30 years and then some, so it ought to be a decent party. And the main thing is, we want a good turnout. I'd like to ask you to take charge of it, Jake." "Why me? I hardly know the guy." "Why not you? You know him as well as anybody." "Well, what about Mary Agnes Donovan? She used to ride with him." "She's got 4 boys in school between 1st grade and 9th. She hasn't sat down since September. She'll be glad to give you some help with family names, though." So, he had already tried Mary Agnes. "He must have some friends in the squads, doesn't he?" "Everybody in his age group retired a couple of years ago. Stearns kept working." "Why did he, I wonder? He seems to hate his job." "You got something against this guy, Jake?" "He never smiles. He never talks. He seems like an empty space in a blue suit." "He's done his job in this department for 32-plus years. You want to give him the finger now because he's not a cheerleader?" "I guess not. But, Jesus, Frank, you think everybody's ornery now. Wait till you hear the bitching that starts when I tell them to pony up for a fun evening with Al Stearns." "Figure out something good to do, then. Have a roast. Tell some funny anecdotes from the old days." Funny anecdotes? About Al Stearns? I stopped twitching and began to sweat. The boss turned the full force of his motivational rhetoric on me. "We always give the long-timers a big send-off." He waved his arms.